in working with Chinese students, they have to get a sense of the purpose. They don't know why. They don't know why they're writing what they need to write. It's not clear to them at all. Because in their world, teacher says, do this, and they do it. They never have an explanation that says it's a really good thing to do this because that's never part of the experience. They never encourage to, they should be able to, you have to encourage them somehow to seek the value of the meaning. You know, why do you need that meaning? What's the value of that meaning? They won't be clear to them at all. There is no transfer in the way that we might have expected. And they don't have techniques for extracting meaning. Because again, they've never been taught. It's always, this is the way it is. You can memorize it. So, I've downloaded this. You'll recognize this. It says guidelines for EALD. English as a second language. And I've highlighted words here. These are the active verbs, I think. Don't know much about verbs because I'm an old ESL kid myself, so I struggle with this stuff, but never mind. But to read, view, listen, speak, write, and compose, well, they can read, but it's word recognition. I was sitting and having lunch with my daughter a few weeks ago, and I was talking to her about all of this stuff that we've been learning at the school about Chinese learning. And I got to the point where I said, you know, there's stuff about the reading and that they read, they concentrate on every word. And they don't concentrate on a phrase or a sentence. Because they don't understand phrases and sentences, let alone paragraphs. And as I'm describing it to her, she's just shaking her head. So Natalie, what's wrong? She said, I work with a Chinese guy. I'm his supervisor. And she said, it drives me crazy because he asks me the meaning of every word. What's this word? What's this word? What's this word? And she says, it doesn't matter what the word is, it's the sentence. You know, and it doesn't work like that because their learning experience has been one where you concentrate on the character. So the whole context is very difficult for them to see. So you want them to, and we'll go through this shortly, things like analyze, synthesize. Good luck. And then you want them to do all of this. What I'm saying is that a statement like that is, one, educationally very sound, deeply Western in its context and meaning, and therefore incredibly difficult for a Chinese person to step into. This conclusion became clear to us. The Western style of teaching, in effect, is based upon questioning. It's what we do. If you look at what teachers do in the classroom, and once you do this, I was visiting a primary school in the United States in Boston, you know, little 4-year-olds, 3, 4-year-olds. And the teacher is asking them questions. So, why do you think Mary's got an orange dress and not a blue dress? They're asking questions of children this tall. And for the kids to give opinions, to be able to differentiate in their answers or to say, this is a reason why and that's a reason why not. They're doing that from the very beginning. And if you think about it as parents, we do that from the moment your child is vaguely cognizant. You know, they're making eye contact and then you're starting the questioning. So away you go. So we train our children in effectively higher order thinking from the moment they're born, in real terms. Chinese children never ever experienced anything like that. It's not their fault. Once again, it's a cultural context. It works really well for Chinese people. But these kids are coming into this learning environment and they've never experienced this stuff. So, Bloom's taxonomy is one of the ways of describing the higher order thinking processes that we use. So we decided that we would start to dig down into Bloom's. Chinese education is almost totally dependent on Bloom's taxonomy level 1, remembering, knowledge remembering. That's almost exclusively it. I had a good chat, because the school started in August, I got there in May, and I spent about 2 months having Chinese textbooks being decoded for me so that I could get a sense of where are these kids and where they're coming from. And book after book after book was all knowledge acquisition. Very little. Very unusual to see something that is vaguely related to understanding. Never any other level above Bloom's taxonomy understand. Never. None of the words like analyse, evaluate, synthesize, none of those words exist in Chinese educational texts, in which case they never taught. And of course our assessment models also depend on higher order thinking, because that's how we assess. So, what we did was, Chinese teachers in their training have never heard of Bloom's taxonomy. They have no basis of learning theory at all, none. They've never heard of authentic assessment or differentiated instruction or multiple intelligences or learning styles. None of that is part of their training as a teacher. They are the experts in knowledge. So if I'm a history teacher, I must know every date, every emperor, every event, and I have to be able to recite them in order, and I have to be able to transfer that to the students. That's my function as a history teacher. That's the way it works. I did an analysis of their grade 7 humanities curriculum. Their grade 7 humanities curriculum has got 4 components. Grade 7 one. They've got history, geography, social studies, and personal and social development. Fantastic. The history component alone for grade 7 has 94 topics. Not 94 facts, 94 topics about China's history. And the kids have to know all of the facts that sit under every 94 of them. So those kids are terrific at memorising. If you think about the language acquisition process as well, all of our language acquisition in English is based upon the letters of the alphabet and a combination of sounds. What's that, like 40, 50 different combinations? And we can make up all of our language from that 40 or 50. To be literate in Chinese, what is it, 4,500 characters minimum? Preferably 5.5, 6.5. So the moment a Chinese child is learning to read, they have to memorise characters. It's the only way that they can function in a literate world. In which case, we should never be surprised they know how to memorise, because it's the only way they can function. It's the absolute basis of their culture, is to memorise. Whereas we don't have to. Our culture is built in a flexibility. I can rearrange letters, I can rearrange sounds, my Chinese colleague was driving with me today and he says, what's the name of that street? And it was spelled W-H-Y-T-E. I said, that's White Street. But whether it's spelled with a Y or an I, it could have been an I-E, it wouldn't have mattered. We would have all recognised the pronunciation and the purpose of that name. He didn't get it, because he would have to memorise that and then memorise. Whereas we're able to break the sounds down and to go down and dig in a very, very different way. So what we did was, I compiled a gigantic list of verbs associated with Bloom's taxonomy. I only ever got to the first one. For each verb, I developed a phrase. It would be a phrase that would be typical of a whole range of subjects. It would be either appear in a statement a teacher might make during a lesson, or it may be in a written assignment, but it would be very typical of how that verb would appear in a learning environment in a Western educational context. We did the verbs, we analysed the verbs, and we found that even though the verbs might be translatable in the context of using a dictionary or explaining to the students, they wouldn't know what to do with the verb in the context of a phrase. So, of the 36 verbs that we found associated with knowledge and remembering, 9 of them, they had no idea what to do. I had a coffee cup in front of me like this here. If I ask them to arrange something, they wouldn't know how to arrange that. If I ask them, I'm a science teacher, I want you to arrange the flask in order of volume, they don't know what to do. Because in their world, there's a correct order. So, you haven't shown me the correct order. So how am I supposed to know what to do? The idea that you would actually read the numbers and then figure it out is not part of their educational experience. When I ask them to describe, when I have my coffee cup in front of me, the teacher says they won't be able to describe it. They can name my coffee cup. It's a bottle, they can name it. But can you describe it? Chinese students will have real difficulty. If I'm a teacher of English, science or art, I'm using the word describe a lot. And these children don't know how to describe. They've never experienced describe. It's never taught. And the analysis goes on and on like that. And when we went to understanding, this is like a 25% disconnect for the first level, and it's more like 37, 38% disconnect for the next level of understanding. And our prediction is that by the time we get to analysis, synthesis, etc., it'll be close to 100%.